Hey Joe, how's it going? Hey Shane. Ah, good to hear, Joe. Glad I made it there. Didn't have too far to go. Hey, glad people are getting their stuff. It's getting there in the mail. Keep the USPS busy. Oh, you're very welcome. This was just a warm up that I did this morning. Hey Mike, yeah, I mean the book that I submitted the draft for has an upload deadline of the 21st if they're going to make their initial deadline, and now it's sitting with the folks to make that decision. So um, once that is either made or decided, I'll be able to let you know when I can do it. Um, but yeah, I'd be happy to do a drawing video with your students. Hey, Allison, welcome back. Thanks for the assist this afternoon. Oh, happy to do it. I do have to grab one thing. Just hang 1 second. I had to grab my colored pencils. If I want to add some color, which I might. Um, yeah, it's no problem. I can show you guys that commission that I was working on this afternoon. Uh, it's the group turtle shot. It's a little too big for the camera, but I actually have them standing on a rooftop in Boston's Chinatown. Uh, got all kinds of lanterns, and you can see the restaurants. This is actually a restaurant that's in over near the Leather District. I used to work there. things are starting to open up and people are doing stuff. So we'll do the sketch relief, and then I'll go back to doing more of my regular videos where we do giveaways and stuff, but it's not just that. Like I'll work on commissions, I'll do tutorials, and just show you pages that I'm working on. Didn't freeze, did it? Alright, just making sure it didn't freeze. But I've got the tone paper, I've got the tall skinny ones, the different envelope sizes, so I do want to take a minute to thank my buddy Kevin, who commissioned a piece of artwork for me by a local artist near him. It's pretty cool. He is asleep at the desk. The artist card is in here. I should know their name, but it's not. Pretty cool. Got the turtles up on the shelf. I played college baseball. This was just a warm-up that I started this morning that I figured I'd finish. If anybody wants it, they're welcome to it. I know Superman's not the most popular character, but I still enjoy it. All right, Mike, yeah. I'll bump up the new people, but if we don't get much, happy to do it. Anytime I think of Peter Parker, I do think of his like sweater vest, like collared shirt. I'd give it a shot, James. I mean, it's not a character I draw very much, but I'd give it a whirl. I mean, come on, I've been drawing like Garfield and stuff like that for the kiddos, so I mean, pretty much any character I'll take a stab at. Oh, thanks, man. I can actually do one request per person. If you want, I could do kind of like they're having me do here, where it's like half Iron Man, half Captain America head shot, where it looks like they're fighting, kind of, you know. Or I can do one or the other. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll do the split like they're facing off headshot. I want to get Peter Parker's hair right, so I'm going to look up Romita Sr. Peter Parker. Cool. Some of that classic Romita artwork. The middle of the face. Move the eye down a little bit. I still kind of have to draw where the eye would go so that I can draw the Spider-Man mask in the right place. Everybody hanging in there? Yeah, I think that's fair, Allison. Everything's just still very weird. I don't know how it is at your work, but I still have things getting canceled left and right, and you know. Cool. Trademark, Al Mega. Yeah, happy to do it, Megan. Yeah. And like I said on the post, if things go back to the way they have been, I'll bring back the sketch relief. As long as I can financially swing it. Marshall Bryant, Harley Quinn. Been drawing more Harleys on this stream than I have in anything else. I don't mind doing it. I do the Bruce Timm, the animated series one, because that's the only one I've ever actually drawn and had published with a DC logo. I know there's a bunch of different versions, but that's the only one that I've been paid to draw professionally. When I draw Spidey, yeah, so many artists are like so much better at it than I am. So, in an ideal world, if I got the character how I'd want it to look in my brain, it would be like a Rick Lenardi Ditko hybrid. But we rarely ever, or at least I rarely ever get everything that's in my brain onto paper. So. One of the good things about these split headshots is that they allow there to be some mistakes in the anatomy. Everything doesn't have to line up perfectly, so it's a little more forgiving. Oh, no problem, Marshall. Like I said, I get to as many as I can standing here, in the evening, and then the rest of them I do, in between my regular gigs off camera. I get them done usually, within a week. Put them all in the mail. Thanks, Shane. I think I am contractually obligated to say Joe St. Pierre as well. And I like how Craig Rousseau draws Spidey. He just draws so graphically, with such great design sense. He has that cartoony flair to it that I have a hard time, leaning into, which is a weird thing to say. I don't know, I mean, I have a tendency to get in my own way. And Spidey's a character that actually is very forgiving. And that's why you can see, so many artists can do, because the design is a little bit more complicated and so iconic. It's easy to like fill in the gaps by looking at it. Draw an evil Almega. I don't know if you've ever seen my self portrait. It's pretty grotesque. So when people ask me to draw cartoons of them, unless it's a commission, it's usually not pretty. I'm just gonna warn you. I mean, for new artists, I think Ray Height draws a terrific Spider-Man. Um, Carlos Gomez, he's a younger guy. He draws a really good Spider-Man. He was doing that Mary Jane book, which I tried reading the first couple issues. It's just they need to put him on a book that I want to read. I think he's one of the better young artists. What's my favorite character to draw? If it's not one of my own, I really do enjoy drawing the Tick, just because he fits tonally a lot of what I like in comics, just very silly and goofy stuff. And also, I mean, I think you can do pretty much anything. Like if you want to do a serious superhero shot, you can do it. If you want to do, um, goofy puns, which that's where I make my bread and butter. I'm gonna keep moving it up. I went a little nuts with the googly eyes again. I like drawing fantasy characters. Superhero stuff is fun and all, but I don't know. I like stuff where it's a little less restrictive as far as the environments go. Very rarely do you get like a superhero story that doesn't take place, in a city, even with the Tick. These are just like those cheap Princeton brushes that I've been using on sketches and stuff lately. I had a couple of folks ask me like what type of gear I use recently. Al, I would insist on it if we could get them to attach them. If I didn't have to attach them all myself to the 2,000 copies or whatever, um, I would insist on it. If they could, in the printing process, put the googly eyes on it. And actually, see, if we did that on a Tick comic, it would be a lot of fun. I think people would like it. Oh, very cool. Oh, thank you for keeping it and not using it for kindling, but I understand if you have to sell it because I know it's worth a few bucks now. Depending on which one you got. If you've got the 51 cover, I mean, then it's in good shape. A friend of mine just posted the key collector app on that, and it's still going for over $100. Yeah, I think it would work on a tick book. I think you could do a googly eyes gag on a cover, and I think people would think it's fun. I could see if they'd let us do it for like a convention special or something. For that, they don't print as many. So if it was like 1,000 copies, uh, it wouldn't take that long to attach the googly eyes by hand. I've had to do crazy stuff like that with like labels and things on comic books. Ah, the TMNT Animated Adventures. That was the first one I did. It's kind of rare, but it's not as valuable. Like, if you're looking to flip it for some quick money, the 51 still goes for more. But that was my first licensed cover. Honestly, it wouldn't take that long. Like I've had to do, on a 1,000 print run, I've had to put labels on them. Whether it's a signature sticker or whatever. Um, where you got to do 1,000 or 2,000 labels. Especially if you have a couple people do it, you can knock them out in a few hours. But I think it'd be worth it. It'd be a lot of fun because I don't know if you saw any of the like San Diego tick books or any of the New York ones. They actually attach a trading card by hand on the inside, and it's one of the old trading cards, the tick cards from back in the day. And they do that they've done it for the last like 4 or 5 convention specials, and they do them by hand. They hang out at the booth. You get a group of people together, and you just get it done. The one thing I do like about Peters is you don't have to make him quite as pretty as like a Clark Kent. You can make him, more of just like an average kind of skinny dude. At least in my brain, I think you can. I know the Ramita version became like super handsome, but like the Ditko version, he's a dweeby teen. The only thing about this tone paper that's a little tougher than just the regular paper is I can't flip it over and see my mistakes. Like I can't see through the paper, it's so thick. Oh, thanks, Mike. It's just a quick little brush sketch. Yeah. Not trying to reinvent the wheel. Just get one of our fine point pens so we can knock out the rest of this. I know Spider-Man's a lot like, he's one of those characters that it's like the dream character for a lot of people. My buddy Jay is one of those people. So my friend Nate that got to do, hey Burton, my buddy Nate got to do Marvel Comics Presents, and he got to ink Ray Height and do Spider-Man, and like Spider-Man's been his favorite character forever. So I was really happy for him. Somebody who drew an underrated Spider-Man I always thought was Steve Lytle. He did Doom Patrol and X Factor, and Marvel Comics Presents for a while. I think I'm losing my voice from having not talked at all. You hanging in there, Burton? Everything okay on your end? Get my eraser. Yeah, I'm happy for you, Mike. You know, let me just get my red colored pencil. Hey, Jonathan, good to hear from you. Going okay. There's things on your end of town. Read any of those Golden Age comics? There's some wacky stuff in there, man. Oh, no worries. Some of that stuff gets a little weird, but some of it's really fun. Oh, with stuff starting to lift, hopefully we'll be able to have a barbecue or something soon. Socially distanced barbecue. Nice. There we go. I don't think that one needs much more. I may keep fiddling with it. That's what I tend to do with these as they're sitting around. But I will say the first one's done. I got what you meant. I knew what you were going for, and I kind of projected what the autocorrect was going to do. What do we have next? Gambit. Gambit. Okie dokie. On tonal paper. And the list is still open, so, and I'm taking extras this time because, like I said, it'll probably be the last sketch relief for now. Hopefully, you know, things open up and things get better, but I will bring it back as needed. Gotta make sure you have room for Gambit's 90s hair. It's very important. I think that's like half the costume. I have been running more. That's been kind of like one of the good things. So exercise has been up. Been doing like 6-mile runs. Hey Tim, how's it going, man? One of the frontliners. If you want a sketch, you can absolutely have a sketch. post office makes sketch relief possible, I would say, with their delivery and shipping rates. My setup's pretty simple. It's just a camera on I do have a tripod currently over my desk. I used to tape it to the mirror. Those were the old streams, and I promised I wouldn't do more streams unless it got better than that. So if you're vehemently anti-smoking, I apologize, but I always remember Gambit smoking. Self-portrait of me as the Elephant Man. Well, my self-portrait is pretty grotesque, so if you just want to see that, I'd be happy to send you one. I think everyone would get a laugh out of it if we did that. It's a good shape right there. Sometimes I'm chunking out the shapes. Self-portrait for Tim. Get this out of the way so people can see the list. When I think of Gambit, I generally think of like the Lee Weeks version and the Andy Kubert version and the Jim Lee version. I know a million artists have drawn them. Salvador LaRocca had a pretty distinct take on them. With like that head scarf thing. Like the bits of armor. Make sure that this is the middle of the face, the top of the face. Okay, gotta bring the chin up a little bit. Yeah, Mr. Miracle would be cool. I'm doing in Gambit now, so hey Charles, the list is still open, so let's do Tim. For Tim, let's do a Mr. Miracle. That would be fun. Love Mr. Miracle. It's a very high compliment that I don't know if I'm deserving of, but I will take it. During the pandemic, I will allow myself to be mentioned in the same breath as Lee Weeks because his stuff is just out of sight. And you're obviously a comic art collector, Mike. You know what good comic art looks like. You're a fan, and he's one of those guys that just the storytelling. It's just so good. And he's got enough texture and like there's some spontaneity to the line. Like it's the one thing about that Spider-Man I don't like. It's just so forced as far as the lines go. But we'll try to bring a little bit back on this one. Try not to go so slow. Black Mask Slash from the Archie TMNT Adventures. I'm gonna have to look that one up, but you know, I'll give it a shot. Let's see, our light source is here, coming down. So let's get some shadow just chunked out, kind of roughed around. More big cast shadow from his face. Yeah, man, enjoy your D&D group. It was bound to happen. All the shows are getting canned, so you know how it is. Hopefully we'll hang out next year. And thank you for being a postal delivery man on the front lines, putting up with this crap, making things like this possible. Absolutely. Shane, it's just some people are really smart and they can mentally picture their light source and like know where those things are. I am not. I have to say it out loud and I have to draw an X like on the paper because the way I draw, I'm always thinking about the texture of things and like how much shadow like away from that light source. Like if on his jacket where these like ribs are, you'll see just a little bit more shadow on each one as it gets further away from the light source. And I have to write that stuff down. Otherwise, I just get confused. And like, you know, to be honest, the Peter Parker piece, completely lacking enough light source, but I was going for a more simplified look. But like, great artists don't need to do that. And some people actually leave that for the colorist completely. They will do basically just containers for color and you know, show very little line thickness. Like there's a handful of artists that I could think of, and I don't want to just like at some point we can just be chatting about it, but there are some artists that, you know, heavily depend on a colorist to know really what they're doing. And that's why, like, when I send my stuff off, and some people draw everything with ambient light, and I just don't think it has as much drama. And I don't have good enough form to not add some sort of exaggeration or drama. And, you know, I just think that I try to do as much as I possibly can on a piece to make it engaging. Sometimes I cook it, sometimes I do way too much. You know, some people like to put stylistically, like, and there are some that are terrific artists that only have like one or two cast shadows in a piece, and then they don't have a ton of texture. Like, and they're great artists. Like, one that comes to mind are some of the more, you know, exaggerated or stylized cartoonier stuff. And one of them is, I love her work, Amanda Connor. Like, if you look at her stuff, like it's very open. It has a ton of life. It has, she's completely mastered her anatomy, and she knows exactly what she needs to tell the story or to tell that image. But you look at, like, you know, there's a lot of room for interpretation. So you got to have a really good colorist on that stuff. And I think she usually works with like Paul Mounts or Laura Martin, and they're two of the best in the business. If you put some like a lesser colorist on that stuff, it's going to show. And an artist that does a lot of like spotted blacks and stuff, and does more texture, sometimes you can get away with worse coloring. Look at my most of my career. I end up coloring myself. Like, I'm pretty pedestrian at digital coloring. I'm much better at painting. But because I have the texture and I'm really just focusing on the light sources and stuff, it helps make up for some of my shortcomings, or at least I think it does. And also, it's a stylistic choice for some people. Like, you know, there's some anime that has very little cast shadow in it in the line art, but again, when they go to color it, they'll add that stuff. I have to write it down. It's like me having to take my shoes off in order to count over 10, you know. The other thing that helps with Gambit as far as like stylistically, like here's what I'm talking about with the light source. My light source is over here. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I would love to see that page. Yeah, for sure. But here's my light source, and I'm starting to put in the stubble. Even the stubble is dictated by the light source for me. There's going to be less and less stubble as you get closer to the light source. Or if you just want to create some more layering on the face so that there's more depth. Like here, we're on the edge of his chin, where it sticks out the most, you can just leave that part blank. Same thing like right here. We'll add some to this side of the lip and a little bit below, but if we leave that part blank, you're creating layers even just in the stubble on the face. You know, some people just draw stubble, and there's some inkers and pencilers that I can, you know, think of where they just draw stubble. Like they have a stubble filter that they just cover the face with, and to me it just flattens the whole face. And I know that the thought is like, oh well, you know, this is nobody's going to notice. They want there to be stubble there, you know. But I think it's an opportunity to try to add a little more depth if you have the time. But then again, like with some comics, when you got to hit those deadlines, like I did some pages last month where I had to cut a lot of corners because I had to do a whole book, pencils, inks, and colors with some help on flatting and lettering. in a month. It's a lot of work. Let's see, I'll probably leave those gaps there. I might put a little bit in here. You know who was really good at stubble was Andy Kubert. If you look at his X-Men in the 90s, he used to leave gaps in the stubble. I try to just think of like the good examples of things because these are professionals, and they all have their strength. And if you say like, well, they didn't draw good stubble, it doesn't invalidate all their other great work. But it might be perceived as such. And this is the internet. We're all on the internet these days, so I don't want to make anybody upset. I'm actually going to pull this over. There we go. And backgrounds, like if you're doing your backgrounds to your light source with anything other than cast shadows, they take a very long time. The piece I finished today, I showed it earlier. I'll post it up depending on how late we stream, either tonight or tomorrow. But I spent a ton of time making sure that there's 3 light sources on it, and I tried to make sure that everything reacted distance-wise to as much as I could get. I have some. I got a delivery from Riverside Art Supply, so that I could keep doing these drawings and trying to make money off of commissions. I got some Conti crayons, and we're gonna try to do some fun smoke and stuff with that. I might actually use that piece, that broken piece right there. I don't know if Allison's still on, but she knows her stuff about, like more manga stuff and like Japanese influenced artists. Like I remember seeing that simplified stuff with like Madureira back in the 90s, and his stuff was all about, putting enough energy into the pose, and then Tim Townsend would put those real slick inks over it. Hey Desiree, this is Gambit, and thank you again for the jelly beans. It's very nice of you to send me some jelly beans. Hope you're enjoying Mr. Show. Got to brush back. This is where you don't have to be as precise. At least I don't think so. So we can come back in with some white out, things like that. Let's see if, because we're inking, it's brighter. I'll go like that. No. I don't know. I don't think it makes a huge difference. I mean, I grew up in the 90s, so I always thought Gambit was cool. I think we were programmed to think Gambit was cool. But here's what like I was telling you about, like light source. Come along here and press down a little bit harder as we go, and it gets a nice tapered line. Because the edge of that collar casts a bigger shadow the further away it gets. And these sort of have like a little lump to them. So I'll go like this, press down a little harder, like that. And I'll just do a little funky do thing like that. Now, I tend to think that Gambit's mask, like the actual mask that he wears, is pretty much a matte finish. I want to create a tangent, so we'll go easy on that back one. For that cast shadow, I went with a dry brush technique, just because, as you can see, as I pull this, a little bit of ink comes off, but it's not smooth. It makes a nice, cool texture. Makes a halftone. And I think that's one of the biggest stylistic things that separates one artist from another, is how they manage their halftones. How they choose to render something that isn't completely black or white. Hey Jerry, how you doing tonight? Doing okay today, Jerry. Got a commission done for somebody, and answered some emails, did the normal work stuff. But now I'm hanging out with you guys, so it's not so bad. As I said on Twitter, I've been enjoying the Quantum Leap reruns. They show them on the Comet Network here. I'm enjoying those probably more than I should, but it's just a fun show. Let's see if I have my templates. Oh, I do. Nice. Quantum Leap's on Prime? Well, if that's the case, you might not see me for the next few days. I'm just gonna watch Prime. See, I thought I would have seen them there, and to be honest, if their algorithm hasn't recommended that to me, then they need to hire whoever does the eBay algorithms, because like those suckers like get me every time, every time. Oh, did you just buy a complete run of Dollar Comics? Well, here's another one that no one else bought in the 80s in reader shape for like 20 bucks. And I'm like, I have to resist the urge to buy. Remember, our light source is over here, so we're just going to do some nice easy shadows. I might even do the cast shadow with wash just for fun, so that actually when we do the smoke, it'll stand out more. Now you're right, Desiree. He does not look like Channing Tatum. That was a strange. Someday they're going to do a documentary about like how that movie just disappeared. It was there. It was being hyped. They did. He was in the pictures with the other actors, and then he was just gone. Kind of like the. I don't know if you've seen the. They did a documentary, Doomed, about the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie, which I've had a bootleg copy of that DVD for since I was in high school, and I've always thought it was just campy fun because I enjoy a Roger Corman movie every once in a while, and they reveal all kinds of stuff about the production, about Avi Arad, the producer from Marvel, and they talk about what it took to finish the movie. And it was all these people that worked for Corman that did it on like their own time, so it was very much a DIY finish. So I don't know, I have a lot of respect for that because I've had to see a lot of projects to the finish line myself. So I did too. I really did. I didn't hate that movie. I think it gets a bad rap just because it was such a low budget. But I think that it needs, It was on Prime when I saw it. I don't know if it's still there or not. But if you find any of those like comic book documentaries, like the Steve Rude one or any of a number of the other ones, and you go up to that customers also watched option, I'm sure it would pop up there. But it's called Doomed, and I thought it was very well done. It made me. I went back and watched it, and actually, that Fantastic Four movie, I believe, is on YouTube in its entirety. Yes, I believe so. Oh, I love the Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe movie. I love that movie. We're gonna have to use a brush for the whiteout on this one because it's a little bit more complicated because of his hair, the side of his face, and stuff like that. This is why I also always have to have two water dishes because if you mix the whiteout water with the ink, um, it gets muddy and it'll get into your ink and it can actually ruin your ink. But here's get our googly eyes. There we go. It's only a little creepy. Light source here, so we're gonna have a hard light here. Top of the ear. Turn it over to do the hair. But see, as it gets further away from the light source, I'll have fewer and fewer highlights, and they'll be smaller. Oh, thanks very much. MyArt6. Thanks for popping in over on Twitch. I was just saying thank you, and thanks for popping in over on Twitch. Most of the folks watch my stuff on like Facebook or on Twitter. I don't have a lot of folks that check it out on Twitch, so thank you. But I think we're pretty much done with the white. I might add a little extra here just to make that a harder shadow. Oh, that's very nice of you. I'm new to Twitch, so I've been doing the Facebook videos for a couple of years now. But thanks to a friend of mine, I've got a little bit better setup and can do both. Looking for my little piece of. I must have dropped it. These are Conti crayons. It's a very nice, chalky finish. I haven't used Conti crayons since college, so I keep thinking it would be a good way to get white halftones. One thing I do on these free sketches is I do experiment a little bit. But there's that one. Call that one done. Get on to the next one. Oh, thanks, James. Raven for Allison. Do you have a preferred version, Allison? I'm not sure. I always think of like when I did the one for, what you call it, the fan art grid. I tried to do kind of like the classic one. Oh, thanks again. I'll check out your stuff when I'm back doing Twitch stuff. So thank you, MyArt6. I have to pull up some reference. I got the list. I try to keep these videos to 2 hours, so this will probably be the last one. I'll finish the rest of them off camera. Gotta be careful with random scrolling through searching for comic book characters. I have made that mistake before. Oh, thanks, Michael. I used to love those Marvel masterpieces when I was a kid. I don't mean anything by that. They're stupendous paintings. That was just when I bought them. I actually have a pack of 1994 Marvel Universe cards. I got these at the flea market for $1. Been saving them for opening for a bad day. This is the less fun part when I'm doing these off camera. I'll just use this design, but I'll kind of do my own thing. Yeah, I'm saving it for, next bad day. I'm sure there's one never too far away during this pandemic, so. I'm just looking at the design so that I get like see, for me, it's the silhouette that you want to get right. And she has like a little point to her thing, and then it comes down. It's got kind of a hobgoblin feel to it, actually, now that I'm looking at it. I never really noticed that before. But just chunking it out, because like, I don't know, I always think the silhouette has to be extremely important when you're designing a character. And, there have been so many times where I've designed a character and editorial decides to go in a different direction, and like things that you try to put into it get taken out of it, and it's just, and some of them are just things. Like the way the shoulders are, or the fact that this has like a little point to the back of her cowl, her hood. It's a hood, it's not a cowl. Try to make her a little bit on the younger side, since you said as a teen. Not a kid, but Yeah, that's how you start your pieces now, right? Like you go straight to silhouette and then you build out from there. Maybe I'll try doing that at some point. That sounds like a fun exercise for keeping it fresh, maybe. Do you find it's easier or harder to come back and do the anatomy once you have like this shape? Are you trying to force the anatomy or do you change the shape so that the anatomy is correct? Because then you lose some of your silhouette, I imagine. It's got to be a delicate balance. Oh, okay. So like as you get your shape, you'll fill it out, start filling it out, and then you'll. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll have to try that. That sounds like a fun thing. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. I'm guessing she has like the classic. Oh, the nose is covered up. Okay. I was gonna say usually like when they draw the teen girls, they have like the little upturned nose. Pull it back. That's the middle of the. Right there. So this is a line that like sketching a blob, find center and create over it. Cool. It's probably easier to do digital, but maybe I'll use the Lightbox and just sort of like chunk out some shapes. I'll just use like even some chalk and make the shapes and then draw afterwards. But like I was saying, I think I said this on the last stream, and it has been so true, like even with people whose art that I really like. One simple line, like here's the whole head. In the middle of the nose is the middle of the skull. Like this is half of this, and I keep seeing jaws that go down like for miles, and it's a really simple thing, and they're pretty good artists, and like I know they know this, and I don't want to be the jerk that like points it out. I'll use a Sharpie. Yeah, big marker. That's a good idea. That way you don't get too fine. Like you're not doing all these stupid little lines like I obsess over, and it detracts from the piece. I don't think Raven should be smiling. She should be kind of gruff, right? Cheekbone lines up across. Neck. Eye socket. Let's see if this is the middle of her head. Use the pencil to measure. Needs to go up to here, which means the hood's got to go up more. It's going to make her head look big, but it's the only way for her head to actually fit in her hood. That's a smart way to do it. Doing them on different layers. That way you can move them too. You can resize them real quick and easy. Does she have pupils? She does. I didn't know if her eyes were just white. Actually, her eyes go white when she uses her powers, so just for fun, let's have her using her powers. Well, we can in fact make that happen. Perfect. We're done. That's a nice tweet. Yep. I think that's how I should do my new sample pages for when I'm trying to get work during the pandemic. They will all have the googly eyes on every character, on every panel. I think that'll set me apart from the pack. They'll say this fella here has his act together. Takes his craft seriously. So we're going to go, because Raven has basically like her own light source built into her design, like that George Perez front of her face is always in shadow. So let's try to get the light source to fit with that design rather than trying to bend it around. So basically, I think the light source would be above, but it would be centered on her hood. That way it casts this shadow down. I don't know if it would come necessarily that low, but we'll fudge it. We'll say it's pretty intense. That way the light comes from there. This will be filled in. This will be blacked out. I think there might be a little bit at the bottom, but that'll be it. And then I think that would do it. Absolutely. I still got Cebulski's email. I'll send it to CB and be like, hey, I know you said to work on this other stuff like anatomy and storytelling, but What if we go full gimmick and for an issue of Impossible Man, let's do Impossible Man um, versus Galactus. There's going to be googly eyes on 75% of the pages. Now it's going to be an astronomical printing cost because they're all going to have to be applied by hand. Or one of their talent people like Ricky Purden or one of them. I'll send it to them. And they'll be like, yes, yes, this is the new hologram cover. We were talking about it earlier, Desiree. I think the Tick could have a googly eyes variant, and I think people would like it. We probably can't call it a googly eyes variant because I'm guessing that that term is trademarked, kind of like Kleenex. But if we call them like super specs or something. Wacky eyes. There you go. See, you got the thinking cap on. About 10 steps ahead of me today. Brain was not wanting to do didn't want to do the thinking portion of being a brain today. It was like, no, we're gonna give you a headache and make it impossible to concentrate. Now, I do think that if you were trying to keep the cast shadows for Raven, that would make drawing that comic book very hard. I think if you're trying to keep both the Perez design with the way that he had it, and you're trying to work illustratively instead of graphically, you would have to keep moving the light source, or you would have to constantly like put her in a situation in a room where the light wouldn't affect her light source, or she would have her own light source. So that would make drawing the Teen Titans book harder for sure. I know a lot of the times they just draw her not just without the shadows. Hey, thanks, Desiree. Have a good night. Let's get a little purple on this. I like purple. Now we got the red here, so we can just do the red. 2 colors on this one. And I just got some more of this tone paper, so if anybody gets a commission and wants to use the tone paper, I can do a bigger piece on this stuff at some point. I gotta do an experiment one just so I know what it looks like. Some of these little sketches, it's just kind of like, you know, just having fun and goofing off, but I haven't tried to use like I'll grab my white pencil real quick. This just needs a little bit of finessing. Well, I think that's, I'll probably fiddle a little bit with the tones a little bit, but I think that we can call it a night. And thanks everybody for doing what you guys do and being out there and, you know, people that have supported me and help keep society running. So, with that, we'll call it goodbye for now on the sketch release stuff, but we will continue to do videos. I'm going to go back to doing the raffle off like we did before. I will finish the list that was here, and then I'm going to do a big giant list of all the ones that we did so far so that people can see, all the stuff that went out. Thanks, James. Yeah, we got 3 done on film, so, but I will, I'll keep chipping away at these, and thank you again, and hope everybody has a good night. Hopefully I'll see you in a week.